Udo Ndewonu. Welcome to Blafrokan's exclusive interview that I will be having today with Dr. Uwa Onyioha Osimiri. First and foremost, Ndewo means long life to you in Igbo Nigerian language. And I want to welcome you to Blafrokan specifically because it's all things bold, beautiful, brilliant, and boundless. One thing that we speak of is that we're many tribes, but we're one blood, one people, and we're going to move forward together. I am Akachi Azubike, and I am your host. And I would like to introduce you to our guest, which is someone very special, and you will know why. Her Excellency Ogele Okedibia Ochoja, Dr. Uwa Onyioha Osimiri, is the founder and president of the African Women Mobilization Commission, a nonprofit organizing women to become leaders through mobilization, philanthropy, advocacy, culture, and training through local and global engagement. Dr. Uwa Onyioha Osimiri is the Okedibia Ochoja, or the spiritual head of the Global Faith Ministries of Chiism or Ghanaianism, and holds six Nigerian Ogele or Chieftaincy titles. Dr. Uwa also holds 2 doctorate degrees in physics, natural theology, and clinical psychology. She is a professor and has lectured at Wayne State University, Oakland University, Michigan State University, University of Phoenix, Emory University, and countless other secondary institutions for learning. She is a survivor of the Nigerian Biafra War, and she has been featured in numerous publications, including Detroit News, as one of Michigan's most influential women. Okay, she is a coach, a speaker, a healer, an author, a musician, and a host of other wonderful things. And without further ado, I would like to welcome Her Excellency, Ezewanye Okedibia Ochoja Ogele, Dr. Uwa Onyioha Osimiri. Welcome.
Thank you. All those wonderful accolades. I do appreciate you. It is my pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
You are absolutely welcome. I'm super excited to have you here and to talk to you specifically about African Women Mobilization Commission and what that is, their nonprofit, and what it is that you all are doing, or that we are doing, essentially as a board member. But before going into that, I just want to ask you a little bit about your life. You know, I know that you were born and raised in Nigeria, but can you share with us, for those of us who've never been to Nigeria, what your childhood and your upbringing was like?
Well, thank you for that question. I'm from the eastern part of Nigeria, from a village called Mkpuru. Mkpuru is in the eastern part, and it has it has 8 other villages that make up Mkpuru. My father was the king of Okwankpuru, and my mother was the Noha, which is the mother of the community. Both of them have joined the ancestors. And I'm the Ogele of Mkpuru. I was installed chieftaincy title by the king, the main king of Mkpuru, the whole. In other words, you've got individual kings for individual villages. Then you have the main king that is supervisory of all, that supervises the whole village itself. And so he made me chief. And the interesting thing about it is that I wasn't the only one that was made chief at that time. I had some African Americans who had been promoting African spirituality, promoting African culture. I took them to Nigeria with me. And the interesting thing is that most of them have passed away. But when they came to the village, they were determined to do positive things for the village. So the village installed them chiefs. And I think, quite frankly, it was a good idea to make them chiefs because they've continued to contribute to the village. So that's the small village I'm from. And I'm quite proud of them. And in terms of my life, I've got, if you talk about your life, you have to talk about your parents.
Yes.
I always, I cannot overstate my gratitude to my parents, because
Mhm.
my parents made it clear to me that it isn't what somebody calls you that matters, it's what you answer to. And so it's imperative to embrace all that you are, regardless of what people think. So for me, growing up, I was very, very proud to be an African woman, not just in terms of my color, not just in terms of the fact that I'm from Africa, but in terms of everything African. My father told me that it is not important to tie the scarf on your head. It is not important to just wear the African clothing. And I mean, he will lecture and he'll let you know that what makes you African is that you think African, you live African in Africa, not just the aesthetics of it all, but the mental component of it. So growing up, I was quite a proud little little lady, to flaunt my Africanness. So, and if I may, one of the challenges of my childhood is, and it's important not to forget some of the things, even though negative, actually
Mhm.
molded me, and that is the fact the Nigerian War. Most people talk about it, but it's different when you actually lived it. I was a child, quite a small child. I think when the war started, I was maybe about 8 years old, 7, 8 years old when it started. And we were in school. Let me tell you, this is important to share. We were in school when the war started. And the reason we knew something was amiss was because everybody was running helter skelter. There were parents coming to the school, picking up the children, and we didn't know why because we had just been dropped off by our father. And then,
Mhm.
but we noticed everybody was just running. Mothers and fathers were grabbing the kids, putting them in the car. And all of a sudden, our driver showed up and screaming and yelling that we should come, get in the car. We have to go. And still didn't explain to us what was going on until we got to my father's office, and he joined the transportation. And when we got home, there was my mother. Everything was packed up in the little car we had. There were, at that time, there were 9 children, and they packed all of us in this little vehicle. I'll never forget. It was a Zephyr 5. No, actually, it was Zephyr 6. Zephyr.
Okay.
It was a Zephyr 6, so you can imagine how old it was then. And all
Okay.
of us crowded, our clothes were strewn all over the place. We all sat on top of each other, you know.
Mhm.
And we traveled many distances until we got to a place called Umahia. And then we stayed there in Umahia until um, what was frightening about the whole thing is that when we got to Umahia, the war followed us. The
Wow.
soldiers came, Nigerian soldiers came to Umahia. We had stayed in Umahia a little bit, maybe about a year before the war came to Umahia. At that
Mhm.
time, I was a child, like I said, and we were in school, and the school that we attended, we had to wear uniforms. And the frightening thing is that the British and the American, it was the British and the American fighter bombers and all that sort of thing. They'll come and they use the children as target practice. And in
Wow.
school, we were all we wore brightly colored clothing. So you see the plane and it comes so low that you can see them, and there was strife. All you saw were little black babies being just exterminated. And there was nothing we could do. We're just all trying to hide ourselves somewhere. And I'll tell you this, and then there was
Mhm.
a young man, there was a hole in the ground, and there was a young man who jumped into that. Well, I was in that hole. He pulled me out of it because he wanted, he was trying to escape all the bombing and whatever, but he pulled me out of it because he wanted the hole. And well, I ran out of there, helter skelter, not knowing where to go. But what I did observe, and that stayed with me for a while, because the bomb dropped in that hole and certainly killed him. So had he not pulled me out, you see, this is how God works. And I'm not suggesting that God preferred that he died
Right.
necessarily, or that my life was any more valuable. But I'm just saying that you just don't know when an intervention, supreme intervention would take place. For whatever the reason, it was not my time. And I was pulled out of there, and I survived. But many, many, many dead bodies all over the place of the children. So that was part of the war. engulfed my childhood that was quite terrifying. And of course, at the end of the war, when supposedly it was time to go home, I was taken from my parents. And see, that if you're traumatized or sodomized, for your parents to watch it and not be able to do anything, that was terrible. And so that is one of the things that I'll never forget, how my mother and my father heard me, saw what was going on, and couldn't do anything about it, you see. But what my father did, though, and that guides me to this day, when the war was over and we moved back to our own Enugu, where we used to live before, he knew, because I was a precocious child, I was always very into everything. I mean, I wanted to learn everything. But all of a sudden, because of that experience, I sort of became cowed by it. I wouldn't look up, I would look down all the time. I felt responsible that what happened was my fault, you see. But Dad didn't see it that way, and he wanted me not to think of it in those terms. So he'll wake me up about 5 a.m. in the morning, and he'll make me watch the sunrise. We had the back of our building, and this was in Imoke Street in Enugu, faced east. So if you sat there around 5 in the morning, you could see the sunrise. And so I would see he'll make me sit there. Now he had all these children, but by the end of the war, instead of 9 children, he now had 10. But he always singled me out because he knew what had happened to me. And he'll ask me to sit there and watch the sunrise. And he did that every night, every morning rather. And I didn't quite know. For me, it was just exciting to sit with my dad, right? But I never knew why he was always making me watch the sunrise. Mm-hmm. So eventually I asked him, No, I didn't ask him. Eventually he said, do you know why I make you watch the sunrise? I said, no. And he says, the reason why I do that is I want you to see the only thing greater than you, the sun, the greatest manifestation of Chineke. And I want you to know that based on that, that's the only thing that can ever stand in your way. Other than that, you have the ability to go and climb as high as you want to climb and never live anywhere unknown. And he says, Uwa, what would your tombstone say when you're no longer here? Make sure that what you do in this world is to be of service to humanity. That's how you're remembered. It's not your money. It's not all the other accolades. Just what you do for humanity. People don't forget. So that was what I learned as a young person, and that continues to be my guide, my foundation to this day.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot that that we could unpack. Wow. What comes to me right now is, from what I understand, right, you didn't have what's considered traditional therapy.
No,
right?
No. I didn't get any such thing. No.
And so your father gave you your therapy.
Yeah.
Right.
He gave me some words.
Okay.
Words to live by.
Mm-hmm.
And it became my modus operandi. And that is, you don't have the right to die until you've made a difference and never live anywhere unknown. And the only thing greater than you is the sun. That was it. For me, that was it. And
Mm-hmm.
when somebody did something to me, even when I attended university, in University of North Alabama, there was a lot of racism. I never saw racism. I never, because all I remembered was what my father said. The only thing greater than you is the sun. Now,
Right.
unless these people are the sun, they're not greater than you, so you don't pay attention to their foolishness.
Mm-hmm.
So racism never impacted me in a way that diminished me. If for anything, I felt sorry for those who tried to diminish me, So what the therapy my dad gave me was words. And of course, he always instilled it in me that, my dad had a tendency to call you the greatest African at that time of the 20th century.
Okay.
Everybody he met was the greatest. And so were you. He wasn't sexist. He didn't believe that because I was female, I was any less than his sons. As a matter of fact, he gave me the titles he gave me because of what he saw in me, not because of my gender. See, so that was the kind of father I had, and his input, all he has said to me, just stayed with me. I tried as much as possible to pass that on to my children as well, and everything that I do.
Wow. That's Powerful. That's powerful. The greatest African. So how old were you when the war ended?
I was 10, 10,
Okay.
11, something like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, what was, I guess, like, what was life like with your siblings and you and the other children in that environment before you eventually would come to the United States?
Well, one of the things about Nigerians, okay, Nigerian parents, okay,
Hmm.
all of us, it was instilled upon all of us that none of us has the right to be less than.
Hmm.
You have to achieve. Dad will always tell you, and he will tell you, Ibuwonye. So for all of us, he will ask you, Ibuwonye. Now, I will tell you something about my father. He was not a disciplinarian at all. As a matter of fact, you get away with all kinds of stuff in front of him. He never disciplined. He never whooped you, nothing. So we all thought, well, dad was easygoing, but we didn't. He had a message that we eventually picked up as we got older. All of us, all the children. He had an office. It was a story. Our home was 2 stories, and dad had
Hmm.
an office in the lower level. And every time you got into trouble, all of us, my mother would say, go and see your dad. See, my mother was the disciplinarian. Dad wasn't.
Hmm.
So the mom kind of figured, mom would fuss and yell, and you pretty much expected it. And after a while, you kind of tune out. You say, in your mind, yeah, mom's going to fuss and all that sort of thing. You sort of. But she'll say to you rather, Dad, your dad wants to see you in his office. And then you walk into the office, open the door and peek in, and there's a sofa right there, and dad will ask you to sit. In the meantime, he's writing. Now and then he'll pause, he'll take his glasses off, and he'll stare at you. And he'll put his glasses back on and continue what he's doing. You will sit there and squirm for hours. He won't say anything to you. Then finally, he will tell you, yes. He would say, Dad wouldn't say anything to you. And you're squirming, you're begging. Right about now, you're begging for him to do something. Scold me, Dad, anything. I have to go because you're listening to all the children out there playing and you want to be a part of all of that. But Dad won't say anything. Then finally, you know what he'll say to you? He'll say it in Igbo, Ago Amola Ubu. Ago Amola Ubu. That means that no, initially you didn't quite know what he was talking about. You say, well, he says, Ago Amola Ubu, and then he'll tell you to go. Mom would say, well, he go. And you say, well, I don't know. He just said, shake her head and said, so you didn't know what he said to you. He said to you that he's a lion, but he has given birth to a lamb. Because what happens to a lamb will be devoured by lions.
Yes.
Unfortunately for him, you are a lion. He did not give birth to a lioness. He gave birth to a lamb. Let me tell you, for all of us, we spent most of our lives trying to prove to our father that we were not lambs, that we are actually lions and lionesses. So for all of us, the way he disciplined was to put in our minds that you can be beyond what expectations people have for you. So that's why all my siblings are all achievers, and we fight to be achievers because that was the expectation of us by our parents.
That's incredible parenting. you know,
Yeah.
uh, that you're raised to be a lion, and a lioness instead of a lamb. And to me, what
Yes.
I heard when you said that though is um, a lamb gets devoured not just by wolves, but perhaps, this is symbolically of life. And so, as lions, you cannot allow life to devour you. Thus, you should be a lion instead of a lamb. So, I take it that's your approach, to life is not allowing yourself to be devoured because you're a lioness.
No, that's right. I don't, I mean, that's not to say, I mean, when I consider my age, I've been through so much in my life, but I've
Mhm,
never allowed anything to
mhm,
convince me that this is
mhm,
where I stop. I've been in the valleys, a valley. You know what that means when you're in the valley. That's when you're really, really low. But then
mhm.
also I've been in the mountaintop. I've gone as far as life would take me, but I refuse to stay down there because that's not how I was raised. I wasn't raised to wallow in defeat, but to keep, to step over obstacles and win. So
Yes.
do I always win? No, but I never stop trying.
Right. Right. Yes. The minute you stop, you've already lost.
That's
So
right.
technically, you always win, one
Yes,
way
I
or
do.
another.
That's right.
Yes. So I would like to transition a bit more into, African Women Mobilization Commission, your nonprofit. And if I may refer to it as OMSI, if that's okay with you from time to time.
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, what was your inspiration for that? I do see that you had a level of activity on the continent in terms of an African children initiative that took place for children who were affected by AIDS, and you went over
Yes.
as a delegate of the
Yes.
United Nations to Nairobi, Kenya. Would you say that
Yes.
that was part of the impact that inspired you into
That's
this?
where it all started for me. In
Okay.
terms of my delving into helping others. I certainly, from all that my parents taught me, was to be strong for me, and understand that um, I'm responsible for my growth or lack thereof. But I wasn't necessarily into what I found out in Nairobi, Kenya. My father, as the spiritual head of Godianism, was invited by the United Nations to travel as a delegate of
Mhm.
Africa's senior religious leadership conference in Nairobi, and but he was ill, and so I, as the continental envoy for Godianism, Chiism, and Igbo at that time, asked me to travel on his behalf. Uh, so, but one of the things that he told me was, I'm not asking you to go and be passive. I want you to go there and ask questions, bring me information that I should know. I don't want you to just be part of the crowd. So when I there, my participant, that made it clear that's why he was sending me. So it
I'm
was
sorry, could you repeat that? You broke up just a little bit.
what didn't you hear? I talked about the fact that, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. You said your father sent you there to ask questions, not to be passive.
Yeah, he says, I don't want you to be part of the crowd. I want you
Mhm.
to be somebody. I want you to bring information about what's going on with these children, so I'll know more, and so we can participate. So, but I've got to be honest with you, I was not prepared for what I saw in Nairobi, Kenya. Because quite frankly, I didn't know much about HIV/AIDS. I just knew it was a dangerous disease. And ignorant as we were about it, you kind of stayed away from people with HIV. But the reason why the religious leaders of Africa were brought together, because of the potency of HIV/AIDS, or the prevalence of HIV/AIDS in Africa, it was important that the religious leaders, before whom all Africans gather every Sunday, that it was important that they use that clout to teach, as opposed to in their conversation, because a lot of times it's assumed that if you contacted HIV/AIDS, you were promiscuous and all that sort of thing. So their objective was to bring us together and let us know how we can make a change. Because if people listen to us as religious leaders, okay, then maybe we can train them what not to do that will help to stop the prevalence of HIV/AIDS. But I've got to be honest, I did not expect what I saw. First of all, we met about 500 university students who all had HIV. How did they get that kind of, how was
Wow.
that prevalent
Mhm.
with young people? So now these young people were lecturing on, the number of children, the number of young people who had HIV. There was a young man whose his name was Salim Yassin. Now, as a matter of fact, if you go and type in Salim Yassin, you will see him. I think since then he's passed away, but he was 7 years old. He had lost his mother, lost his father, lost his whole family to HIV/AIDS. And they put him on top of the dais. He was that little. I was dressed in white and purple, and somehow he zeroed on me, and he would yell, "Mama, why you let us die? Why should death be my destiny? You all come here, you're all dressed in your fancy outfits, and you eat your fancy foods, and you stay in fancy hotels. What about them? What posed to the children?" That really touched me, touched all of us, touched all of us. The other exposure was children there's a place called Kibera. Kibera was surrounded by poverty. You had trash heaps where 2, 3, 4-year-olds were digging for food. Now, these are children who had lost their parents, all right? And can you imagine a 2 or 3 or 4-year-old caring for himself or herself? No parents. So you can imagine a lot of deaths, no water to drink, no cleanliness, disease, and all of that. We also met a lot of mothers at a place called Star Peace Project, where we met mothers who were upset about the fact that they were diagnosed with HIV and they were dying. But this project had all these children. Oh my God, so many children. These two African women were trying to help these children, but they had next to nothing. And we were exposed to little baby girls who had been sexually molested by grown men who think that having HIV/AIDS, that a virgin will cure them of HIV/AIDS. So you had a lot of little girls who were just destroyed, whose privates had been destroyed. And they wanted us to see the pain and the anguish. It was life altering. And so at the end of the conference, we were asked to go wherever it is we came from, to go and begin the process of helping, children. And so when I got back to the United States, I lived in Michigan at that time, I decided that I will bring together women so that we can see, particularly business women, because I had a successful business as a group home provider. And I thought if I could bring women together, we can, use the funding, provide funding so that we can help those orphanages in Africa, right? But the only thing was that the orphanage program was getting abused. So funding was lacking. So after a while, I couldn't continue it. So I thought, okay, well, what we could do is help the mothers so we can help the children. So we decided to start helping mothers. So those kinds of programming continued until I decided that I would do something a little bit different, and that is to form the African Women Mobilization Commission to provide training in philanthropic work. So that is what UMSI, that's how UMSI came to be, from my experiences with vulnerable children.
Okay. So there's people who, what you saw in Nairobi. Mm-hmm. There's people who feel like, I can't do anything, it's beyond me. What empowered you to feel, well, I guess what your father taught you, but what empowered you to feel that, you specifically had to do something, for women?
Well,
African.
Well, I think if you would allow me, let me just briefly just go over what UMSI is about. Okay.
Yes.
And okay. So UMSI is it was founded in October of 2021, and our focus is to empower African women so that they can lead and build and define the future of their world. You do know women are very vulnerable. And for the most part, in a lot of communities, they're treated like second-class citizens. For me personally, knowing that based on what my dad taught me, I had the power to change my life and the community I live in. There's an African proverb that says, "Akum dido pani." That means that my wealth lies in my people, not just in my bank account, but in my community. If your community is doing well, then you're doing well. As a matter of fact, there's a song they say, there's another one they say, you cannot claim that you're wealthy when your mama is naked in the village. So your village is your impoverished village represents your naked mother. So my responsibility, what I felt was that it was important to teach women how to lead and stop acting like, or at least stop embracing that misinformation about who they are. We are the people who give birth. We bring forth life. We nurture life. Without women, there is no life. So how can you be weak? So we cannot continue to allow women to perform at that level as if we're less than. So OMSI is determined to the best of our ability to teach women how to lead, how to build, and to define their own world. And our mission, our specific mission, is to give them the opportunity to share their skills, because women have skills and talents, and they can use those skills and talents to thrive. And currently our efforts are concentrating on mobilizing women in Africa and the United States. We're working on adopting a step-by-step process to help them pursue these goals and achieve prosperity and be the female leaders we need. And one of the most difficult things that I find throughout Africa is the women are not in power, and they should be. So we want them, if we can teach these women how to be leaders, they can bring about real change in the world. So we are focused to achieve this. We're focused in these following areas: mobilization. But let me tell you why we want to mobilize. It's not just so that we have women. We are organizing and encouraging women to come together. If there's enough of us, then we can register to become achieving the objectives of the United Nations for women. So numbers are very big.
You said if there's enough of you, you're able to do. You were breaking up just a moment there. So you said if there are enough of you in terms of mobilization, you're able to do what?
We are trying to mobilize up to 10,000 women by the end of 2023, so we can participate in the United Nations mission for upliftment and empowerment of women between now and 2050. Okay, they are that will become more leaders pull them out, right? So to generate enough women that we as a notable organization that should be taken into consideration as they move these objectives forward. All right. And then the other thing is that I personally believe in philanthropy. I believe that what you do for others come back to you. You see, it's not so much, life is not all about money. I consider myself a blessed woman. I have handled money more than I can use. All right. But that didn't bring me all the happiness in the world. What is bringing me the happiness is what my father said: you don't have the right to die until you've made a difference, and never live anywhere unknown. Not so you'll be braggadocious, but so that you can live a legacy of hope, a legacy of love, a legacy of uplifting people less advantaged as I am. All right. So we work with the internally displaced people in Nigeria. And people say, oh, you're only working in Nigeria. There's an African proverb that says, she starts from within the outside. As a Nigerian woman, it makes sense that I engage activities that will play my people. As I move the okay. So there are people who live in the IDPS camps. IDPS stands for internally displaced. These people are displaced because of the activity of the Boko Haram, of terrorism, who state villages, chase people away from their homes, and they become desolate, they become homeless, and they come to these camps where there's hardly food. Some of the children die because of starvation, and they don't go to school, and they don't have enough to eat. So you said something, you asked me a question earlier. How can one person, I mean, many people say that they can't do so much. But for me, even to give somebody $1, that's more than they had. It isn't of the big picture. It's step by step to get to the top. Start where you can. Help somebody, one person, one child at a time. So there are so many languishing, so many hungry. So we started the IPS feeding program where we go, we go and feed them. Right now, we're in desperate need of back there to feed them. But in addition to that, while we're waiting for funding to do the feeding, there are children who are not going to school. There are children whose parents don't have food to feed them. So we started the sponsorship program. The way it works is each child can have as many as 5, 6, 7 sponsors, as long as the sponsorship gets to about $100. Then $100 to register them for school. Every month is a commitment, not donation, but a commitment, monthly commitment. So we use that money to pay for their tuition, buy them clothing, buy provisions for daily living skills, and train them in whatever they need for daily living. Believe it or not, you may think that $100 is not much, but when you convert $100 in Nigeria, that's a lot of money. And if a child is getting that consistently every month, they will be doing quite well. So we have successfully right now sponsored. Started this.
You've successfully sponsored how many children?
3 children. We have that have been identified. When I say successful, that means that there's a $100 commitment for these particular children every month by sponsors. So we're grateful to these sponsors who see the vision, or who quite frankly, with the fact that there's not much I can do. Yes, you can. Even little, I have somebody who donates $10 a month, and that's fine. I have some who donate $20, but it comes in amounts to $100. So we have new commitments that have come up, but we have to wait till the $100. So we are always looking for help to, for this sponsorship program. Then we are into advocacy. Excited about the advocacy. I talked to you earlier. What I said earlier was the fact that women are treated as second-hand citizens. Yes. However, when you empower a woman, you empower a nation. When you empower a woman, you empower a nation. So we have a relationship now through there's a company here, the name escapes me right now, but I'll come back to it. We have a contract with Google. Okay, so what we're doing is we get the registration for many women, to take this very intense certification in IT. And once they get their certification, the only thing is that they must make sure that they go through it, because they can't do it sometime and come back. No, those 6 months, you have to finish the 6 months. You get the certification, then you have access to all the companies that recognize that certificate. And there are many of them. And these people can make all kinds of money, anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000 a year, or maybe even more. So, wow. So we are excited about being such advocacy, for women. And that just started. As about for yesterday, I was told this to start registering. So we're going to start registering these women, getting their commitment. And once they're committed and they go through the program, then it will change their lives completely. Completely. Just think about that. Think about living in Nigeria and you're making $25,000 or $100,000 a year. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Yeah. So culture. Mm-hmm. Now, these are every organization has its main focus. These areas significant if women play their role. That is culture. One of the most dear features in OMSI is promotion of culture. Most of our culture in Africa in particular is dying. And it's dying because of conscious effort to kill it. and yet culture is instrumental for the growth of any nation. If you look at all the countries that are doing very well, culture, they use their culture for to entice people for tourism, you see. But unfortunately, we throw ours away. So what we're trying to do is rebuild it through festivals. We have a particular festival that we're going to be doing every year, and that is the Rock Festival, and it's going to bring the Africans, particularly our men, trying to raise the men in Nigeria to connect with the men here outside of Nigeria, so that they can reclaim their community. That's what rock means, reclaiming our communities. It is the responsibility of the men to reclaim the communities. Your role is to protect and to build your communities. So we women want to remind them, for those who don't remember, remind them of the importance of them being engaged in culture, so that is another particular area that I'm excited about. Women are essential for actualizing this vision of uplifting our culture. Then the other thing is training. Our goal is to train the process of disciplining, skill acquisition, as I said earlier, knowledge and competencies, because once they are empowered mentally, when we have the knowledge, when the women have knowledge, you are building self-esteem. So we have trained different areas that we provide training. And in Nigeria right now, we're getting additional commissioners. We have commissioners here, and the commissioners are trainers. And on a monthly basis, we provide training. And a quarterly basis, we provide a seminar. And on an annual basis, we provide a conference. And that is to develop a prosperity mindset and let our women know that they matter. And these are the things necessary for them to know, so that they can become the leaders that are necessary to move the world forward. That's what UMSI is about.
Wow. I'm going to keep saying wow. That's incredible. You all are definitely making an impact. There, so much there. I would like to go back to what you're doing with the child sponsorship. So how did you find out, what was going on in Borno State and Maiduguri, Nigeria, and how did, when you first heard about it, what struck you and said, that's it? Because there's a lot to choose from, right? There's so many different issues that are taking place in the world. So what particularly would you say struck you that we have to do something there?
Well, to be honest, I didn't know anything about it until one of my friends on Facebook started following UMSI's activities, all right, and then contacted me to let me know that there is a place in up north in Borno State where there's so many camps of starving people. Well, being the kind of person I am, I'm an Igbo woman. I don't get caught up with tribalism. Now, you will think that initially my concern will be with the Igbo people. And it certainly is. I'm concerned about my people. But I think personally that it does not matter where there's a need of a help and love and support for the African people. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's here in the United States, I will give my support. It doesn't matter if these people are from the up north or west or east or south, whatever. They are Nigerian. They are African people. And when I do any work in America, I don't care if they are from Michigan or they are from Houston or they are from Boston. Wherever there is a need, that's where we go. So when I was approached with this and they showed me pictures of the children, that's when I said, we've got to do something. At that time, just seeing the starving faces, the hungry faces, you didn't have to tell me twice. I felt, okay, fine. This is what we need to start. And now that we've started it, we're making a difference. There's so much more that needs to be done. But even the little ones, the few that we are impacting, the word has gone out about this. I've got to be honest with you, Akachi. Oftentimes we feel that if our people are suffering, we have to go outside of the community to get help. We don't know, or at least we refuse. I don't know if it's that we don't know or we refuse to understand that it is our responsibility, to take care of our own. It is
Yeah.
wonderful when others help you, but at
Mm-hmm.
what point do you understand that you are responsible for your psychological, for your financial, for your spiritual well-being? You are responsible for that.
Yes.
So once you begin to see that there's nothing anybody else has that you cannot have, then you start looking within, not from without. So for me, as an African woman, it was important for me. Now I've got to be honest with you. It took a while for me to raise even 1,000, because many people doubt. They doubt that, yeah, that they can trust you, they can trust these Africans. But if it was Red Cross, they'll give. If it
Mm-hmm.
was any other, Purple Heart, anything that is an established organization, they'll give, but they don't always pay attention to those little companies, those little organizations that know that they can make a difference and go out there and do make a difference. And I'm excited of what we're accomplishing. And I'm certainly proud of the team that we have put together in Nigeria under the leadership of Zainab Ahmed. She is just absolutely phenomenal. And so that's what, for me, that's what started it all.
So I know that particularly there are two children, but we can focus on one child because I've seen the videos of Ahmed. Can you share with the audience, where was Ahmed, and where is he now? How did his story start with you all?
Oh my God, his story is so heartwarming. Ahmed was in the one of the camps, one of the IDPS camps, Kafa. So I think it's Kafa camp. And national director, when I sent them to these camps to videotape and find out what's going on with these children, and she came across Ahmed. The problem with Ahmed was that Ahmed had an ear infection, and you could see his swollen ears, and it was full of pus. And for me, I could just imagine the pain this little boy was going through. Can you imagine, when you know what it is to have an ear infection? It is devastating, and then to have it filled with pus. It was just, I just said, oh my God, now that could be the first person that we help. So let's go out here and get some money so we can, So when we raised and came up, at least the minimum of $100 commitment, we started. They took him to the hospital. After they took him to the hospital, he got the treatment he needed for his ears. Then they took him shopping, bought him some clothing, and his parents they just could not believe it. And then, of course, having raised that kind of money, we were able to go now and register him for school. Here's the thing about this young man. He's always dreamed, he's 6 years old, always dreamed of going to school. Now, one thing he does realize is that with an education comes opportunity. And he will tell his parents, when I get, particularly his mother, when I start school, when I go to school one of these days, I am going to make money. I'm going to take you to Dubai. I'm going to take you here. I'm going to buy you this. Well, the mother, knowing their condition, never thought that would be a reality. But she wasn't going to discourage him. But he will follow kids, because there was neighboring school, those kids, outside of the camp, that the parents could pay for them to attend school. So he would follow them to school. When he gets to the gate, unfortunately, they will turn him back, and the mother will follow him and tell him, honey, you can't go to school. I can't afford it. So certainly when he started school, you can imagine how excited the parents were when they bought him his uniform. And we have a video on omc.global where anyone who wants to go and see can see his story. And they say now he's so excited he can't even wait to go to school every day. They have to literally tie him down to go to bed. But he's ready. He's ready every day to go to school. And yesterday we had an Ndumodo show where we featured the national director, and Ahmed was there.
Okay.
So it was wonderful to see him. He looks so different because now he's been fed, he's clothed, and then of course with him as well was the other child, Aisha, that we've also gotten sponsorship for. So it's just wonderful. It's just wonderful.
That is amazing. And where can people, watch that episode? You said the Ndomodu show.
The Ndumodu show. There is the Ndumodu show with Dr. O on YouTube. You can
Okay.
watch it there. Yeah. The Ndumodu show with Dr. O on YouTube. It was
And I'll be sure to put that information for the viewers so that they can find that and watch that because I'm looking forward to it. I haven't seen it myself, so I'm looking forward to it even more now that Ahmed is. I didn't know he was in the video as well. That he spoke with you, so that's
yes,
great.
yes, yes,
Um, so I also you made emphasis on being an Igbo woman and being an African woman, and you live in the United States, right? And
yes,
helping women wherever you find them, irrespective, African women wherever you find them, irrespective of ethnicity. What would you like to say to those people who might be stuck in a mindset that they think, I'm a Haitian, so I should only work with or really spend my time helping people who are Haitian, or I'm African American, I don't have anything to do with what's going on over there in Nigeria, or I'm Yoruba, I need to focus on Yoruba, Igbo, or etc. What do you say to those people?
Well, there is nothing wrong with focusing on the welfare of your people. Okay. But life doesn't always work that way because you may find yourself outside of your world, of your community. Do you understand? And the people that now you find yourself to be amongst may be the ones to give you the help you need. You see, unless you plan to be stuck in one environment and one environment only, it's a global world. You have to be a little bit more conscientious about that.
Hmm.
What you do for anyone comes back to you. You cannot focus on just your own people. Helping humanity should be one of our main responsibilities. Do you understand? So
Yeah.
for me, I never encourage anyone to just see their community. You
Hmm.
should see it, but if you can help elsewhere as well, do so, because you never know. I always say to people who live in America, who say to me, well, my concern is only America. I live here. I say, if this ground shakes,
Hmm.
you better have somewhere to go. The Jews know where they're going to go. The Asians know where they're going to go. Europeans know where they're going to go. Where are
Hmm.
you going to go? If you don't see Africa as your home, that's your ancestral home, then
Right.
if you ever had to go back, you may go back to a place that's underdeveloped, because you didn't care enough to lend a helping hand. No, we should care. The world should care. We should
Yes.
care about our people wherever we find them, and not be so closed-minded. If you can spare $1 to help some child in a faraway village in Nigeria or Ghana or Uganda or wherever, do so, because those are your ancestors. They are the children of your ancestors. If they need help and you can help, do it.
Hmm. So you would say that UMSI is undergirded from a Pan-African philosophy, essentially?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
well, of course. I mean, we welcome.
Hmm.
Like I said, it's a global world. We welcome people, but
Hmm.
it's important for people to know that this is an African organization.
Hmm.
Okay, there are some main principles that govern us. Unity is number one. We have to be a unified front. That is an African concept,
Yes.
and it's, as a matter of fact, it's a Kwanzaa concept. You
Hmm.
know, we must be unified, and you shouldn't be offended by that. This is who we
Right.
are.
Right.
Okay, and we are focusing on becoming self-determined, to be responsible for our growth or lack thereof. It is our responsibility. Whereas it's okay to welcome other people to help, but we understand that we are responsible for our own growth. We must help our own people. We must uplift our people. So anybody who comes in needs to, and what we believe in collective responsibility. We have a responsibility to make sure that our community is taken care of. It's our
Right.
collective responsibility to build up our communities. We can't talk about what other people are doing to us when we are doing it to ourselves. When we see things that need to be done and we don't do it as a collective entity, right? Then we cannot expect anybody to. If you don't love yourself, nobody will love you. And we need to appreciate. Our philosophy is appreciating each other, buying from each other, selling to each other. That doesn't mean that I will not step into Walmart. That doesn't mean I will not go to Kroger's. But it also means that all those big corporations did well because we buy and sell to them. So we need to be able to single our own people out as well and be supportive. So to support women is to support what they produce. All right.
Right.
All of us have a purpose. The purpose of the OMSI, of African women, is to be the reason and the cause of the uplifting of our sisters. That is our purpose. Besides the purpose of taking care of our own selves, but one hungry woman is one too many. One starving child is one too many. One brother on drugs is one too many. Our purpose is to be the cause and reason of our organization. Anybody of our communities, anybody who comes in there should know that. All of us, women in particular, we have so much talent. We need to learn how to use that talent to better our communities. All of us have it. There's an African proverb that says, Onya adinonwa or dinonwa. Let me say that again. Onya adinonwa or dinonwa. If you're not good in one thing, you're good in another. There is no human being that is lacking of some kind of talent. It could be that you sing good. It could be that you dance good. It could be that you weave a basket. But you are good at something. Never look down on yourself. And we're trying to encourage that. And last but not least, we must always see ourselves as worthy of love, see ourselves, have faith in our capacity to change our world. That is the foundation. Those are the foundational principles that we adhere to. And we want anybody who comes into OMSI, I don't care who you are, understand that's an African's philosophy that we follow. And we believe in our ancestral way of living. We believe and encourage our spiritual way of life. And we don't look down on anybody's spirituality, but we reject our spirituality to be trampled upon, to be humbled and dogged. There you have it.
Wow. So, as I stated in the introduction, that you are the Okedibia Ochoja of Chiism, Global Faith Ministries. Mm-hmm. What particularly, how does your spirituality impact your philanthropy and your because a lot of times, and this is not to harp on anyone's faith systems or belief systems, but people simply feel like, I can just go and pray. I can go pray about it, and God will provide, or whoever they call upon as their God. This idea that we just pray. You have people praying for things to happen out of nowhere, for change.
Well, change never happens without action. Prayer is powerful because it allows you to focus. It allows you to focus on something. But once you focus on that something, then you have to go and act on that something for it to manifest into reality. In our spirituality, we say, Monachiso, I am one with the Creator. Now, if the Creator supposedly is powerful, that means you're powerful. You're walking alongside the most powerful spirit in the world, the Creator. So, right, if you say right where I am, Chineke is, that means you're walking with power. Do you understand? So you don't have room to just pray. What you're doing is asking the power to work with you to make your expectations become reality. So we can pray till we're blue in the face. If we don't act on it, it doesn't happen. The other thing of our spirituality that is very, very important is the fact that we see the Creator in each other. Do you understand? Because if I believe that the Creator is in me, then I should see that in another human being.
Right.
So I should, if to honor my the Chineke, because Chineke is what we call the creator, and it has to, there's a duality there. So you've got the chi, and I suppose that's what I'm excited about my spirituality. It honors the male essence and it honors the female essence. We don't say that the male is in charge and the female is the underdog. No, those aspects of the creator, once you honor that, then it makes sense that you honor a man, and it makes sense that you honor a woman, because both are responsible for bringing life. So we see the Holy Spirit as both female energy and a male energy that you can tap into depending on what you're looking for at any given moment. All right. So to be a chaste means that you know that the power is not for you to pray for, but for you to act on. Get off your knees. Ask and you shall receive. Then we say there's a proverb. What you seek, so shall you find. But if you're seeking it, but you got to go out there and find it. You can't stay on your knees and seek it and seek it and seek it, but you don't go out there to find it. All right. So for us, for our spirituality, right where I am, Chineke is. So that means wherever the power is, I'm there, and I can make anything happen for myself. It may take a while. Right. It may be a struggle, but as long as I'm taking one step at a time to get there, I will finally get there. Even if it means I get there at age 90. All right. But as long as I'm making that effort, I'll get there ultimately.
So you spoke of getting there ultimately. What has been one of your greatest challenges in this endeavor with your nonprofit? And one of your greatest achievements, or the organization's achievements?
Pardon me. One of the obviously, for the most obvious being funding. But I never give up on that. See, that's the thing. People say, oh, funding is difficult. You always, if you don't get it today, you'll get it tomorrow. You just keep going after it with all of your capacity until you get it. But it is a challenge. But I don't make it so. We don't say, okay, we don't have, it's a challenge, so we quit. No. You keep going until you hit the right button and you find the right person. Okay. But the greatest to me, quite frankly, is that I get from leading an organization where women are interested in not just themselves, but others. That to me is the greatest achievement, because I have women in Nigeria right now who are just willing to do whatever it takes to help others. And I have women who say, you have brought us to a place that we never thought we'll be, to be thinking about helping others instead of thinking of ourselves alone. That to me is an achievement. And it's just going to get better, because the financial rewards will come ultimately. But when mentally you see yourself as the cause and reason for change in society, that is an achievement. That's going in the right direction.
So when you spoke of the women in Nigeria, what would you like to say to Nigerians specifically, and those who are not Nigerian, who try to diss our people? They try to diss us being Nigerian, like, saying that we're scammers, or, you can't trust Nigerian people. What is your message for them, since this is a Nigerian-led nonprofit?
Yeah, first and foremost, it isn't what you're called that matters. It's what you answer to. Do you understand? So it's not, I don't blame those who call me names or have misconceptions about me. I blame those who embrace the misconceptions. There is nowhere in this world that there are no problems. There are problems everywhere. But it is what you sell about yourself that defines you. If somebody calls you a scammer and you start looking at yourself and you're embarrassed because your people supposedly are scammers, then the problem becomes you. not them. Do you understand what I'm saying? I know who Nigerians are. I don't have to tell you. Type on the browser of your internet and say, who are the most successful immigrants in the world? Nigerians. So that means they are good Nigerians doing wonderful things, just as much as you have bad Nigerians. Do you understand? But I choose my own heroes and sheroes. I don't go in the gutter and pick my sheroes and heroes. I look at the mountaintop and see who's there, and that's who I emulate. That's who I admire. That's who I speak of. So if you have a negative impression about Igbos, about Yorubas, about Hausas, about Nigerians as a whole, that's your problem. It's not mine, because I don't buy that. I know what we're capable of doing. And let me just tell you about this scammers thing. Some of the things that are so interesting, I was watching Oprah Winfrey, and there was a woman who was crying. She was so sad. She was scammed by a Nigerian. Oh my goodness. Okay. Let's think about this. How was she scammed? She was scammed because the man lied that she got 10,000 or something from her, and lied that she had a family member who died and left her millions, and for her to collect those millions, she had to pay 10,000. You were crying because you are the scammer, because you expected to pay 10,000 to get millions. Who does that? So you are a con artist that was out-conned by a con man. So now you get angry and you get on Oprah to whine about the fact that you gave somebody 10,000 when you were expecting millions. What grandfather of yours lived in Africa? What grandfather do you know crashed the plane? Somebody convinced you that your grandfather crashed his plane and left you millions and gave me 10,000 and I'll turn. If your grandfather left millions, I don't need your 10,000. People do foolish stuff like that. Somebody like me, I can tell a con. The fact that you can't tell a con, don't blame Nigerians for it. You're the problem. These Nigerians are not coming here with guns or anything to get your money. You gave it to them. If when you're not chuck off, for what you seek, so shall you find. You were trying to con somebody and got conned. Then you got angry. Now Nigerians are all scammers. If we based our impression about the United States based on crime, based on political corruption, we will not come here.
Right.
It is what you sell about yourself and what you accept about yourself that defines you. You see, I don't know if you know about this proverb. When you give a dog a bad name, you hang it. What does that mean? If you see a bulldog coming or a Doberman coming down the road, you will run to the other side. You know why? Because somebody has told you that a bulldog is violent.
Yes.
But you don't even take the time to see if the poor dog has any teeth. It may be toothless. It may not have enough teeth to bite you. But because of an assumption made by others, you believe it. You buy into it. So you see the dog and you run. When somebody says they're Nigerian, oh, have I faced that? Oh, yes. Oh, I hear all of that. But again, it doesn't stop me, because my father says when somebody says no to you, you say it's on. Turn it around. No means on. Keep it moving. Your ignorance cannot become my reality. You know. So for those who don't like Nigerians, hey, Floriat. Well, monkey don't stop no show. Just because you don't believe in me doesn't mean I need to stop believing in myself. I know that my people are hardworking. Most people who have visited Nigeria, they just love the people. And you have to understand a lot of reasons why people do what they do is because of bad leadership. If we had leaders who would help support these people, some of these young people would not resort to those kinds of things. And you yourself should not be trying to con these con artists and then complain that you got conned. May I share one more thing?
Yes.
As a Nigerian, a gentleman that I know, I was doing a business with him, and somebody in Dubai convinced him that they will give him $40 million to do business with them instead of doing business with me. And I asked him, are you sure? He says, yes, it's all guaranteed. It's the king of Dubai and all that stuff. He showed me the website and everything. They were going to give him $40 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I sighed and said, okay, well, more power to you. Good luck to you.
Yes.
Then he called me and said that he's so excited. He's on his way to the bank. He's going to withdraw $10,000 and give to this guy who's going to pay for his lodging in Dubai, and they're going to meet with him. They're going to give him the 40 million, and he's going to go and give them 10,000. Well, I thought about that, and I said, they have 40 million to give you, but you got to give them $10,000 first. Something is not right. And so I asked him, I said, are you sure that this is not a con? He says, oh no, this is legitimate and everything. So I took the information he gave me and researched the website and found that the website was in Abuja. Now he's on his way to Dubai. 40 million. And he's on his way to the bank to give this character. So I called him immediately. I said, are you still at the bank? He says, yes. I say, don't you dare. So I told him what I found out. I'm a Nigerian. I saved him from spending $10,000, whereas he was willing and prepared to go give away 10,000 to collect 40. Who's the con artist here?
Right.
So when people talk about Nigerians, Akachi, it doesn't bother me. You believe what you will. My life will move on with or without you. You're just a footnote on my book. And so, and we move on.
Yes, a footnote. So speaking of help, when you talked about the things that people do, out of desperation or, lack of economic needs being met for survival, in terms of the government, do you have any kind of correspondence or any assistance that you may be getting from the government here in the United States or even the government in Nigeria as far as OMSI's great works and endeavors?
On OMSI's work, we do grant writing. I've written some grants and I'm waiting for response. No, I don't have any funding from Nigeria. I don't have any funding at the moment from the United States. Much of our funding comes from membership dues. And some people make some donations because we're 501c3. So that means all donations are tax deductible, you see. So no, even though we're a nonprofit organization, we certainly can access these funds. And that's exactly what we're doing, writing as many grants as we can. But the good news is, as you seek bigger funds, you do whatever you can to get the smaller funds. So that's where we are with funding. And we're excited about the direction we're going. We're not hampered anywhere at all by the struggle of funding, because we're getting there. We're getting there.
So in terms of what, well, let me go back. So in terms of the people who, because you have membership, because you offer all these great programs, you're making an impact literally. What kinds of women are you seeking to join and even, participate, take on roles in OMSI?
Well, let me say, initially, when I started OMSI, I was excited. So I was just excited that whoever came and expressed interest, I said, oh, come on in, that sort of thing. But when you do that, or when I did that, I found that most people come into an organization to take advantage. All right. They don't understand the mission of the organization until they come in. Then they find out that the mission requires that they do some work. And that's when you start losing them. So the kind of people I look right now is I go over impact. It's literally impact. A program is literally, I go over that to let them know this is what we're trying to achieve. Are you up to it? And so it doesn't matter the numbers for me at this point. It is the quality. people who see the need to be of service to humanity. Those are the best kinds of members. I'm not looking for people who are in here just to make a buck for themselves or to use the organization as a stepping stone towards what they want to achieve. That is also quite important. That is good. But what's important to us is to be able to see themselves as being willing to mobilize, to engage in philanthropy, to be advocates, to engage in cultural, I call it cultural movement, and also to be, to be trainers. And if you can't do any of those, just even becoming a member, just to support the organization is welcome. I have a lady who just joined 2 days ago, and she says, she has some health challenges, so she can't really do too much, but she wants to support the organization because she believes in what we're trying to do, particularly when they saw what we're doing with these children. She says, I just want to, become a member so I can, so we do have members who are just members just to be members. So that's basically it. You have to have the vision and the will to be helpful to others.
Is there a component of OMSI that is focused on environmentalism and sustainability? Because, when I think about Africa, the continent, of course, but then just the world, we're in a state of global harming. And so we can do amazing things, but if we don't take care of our planet, if we don't address, these issues with climate change that is a byproduct of human behavior and largely corporations, multinational corporations, is there an avenue with OMSI in terms of trying to assist in that area?
Well, one of the things that is happening in our world, not just in Africa, but here as well, is, the loss of trees. We just chop trees for industrialization purposes, but trees obviously are very essential, in modulating air and what have you. So we're losing all of that. So what I was saying to one of our members is very soon we are going to initiate, if a birth happens, whatever that birth happens, in the name of that child, we plant a tree. Okay, plant a tree once a birth happens, and you'll be amazed at how many trees that we can grow to replace the trees that are being, so in that area, that's one area we can start something. It's quite simple. There's always going to be birth, people, women are always going to birth children. So if we made it a habit of planting a tree for each child, think about the millions of trees we can plant every time there's birth. So that's one area that planting trees in the name of the new child.
That's beautiful, and it makes me think of Wangari Maathai, which is someone that I admire, and so that brings me to ask you, who are 2, 3, 4? What African women inspire you the most?
Well, first of all, my mother. My mother was an inspiration to me because she was a no-nonsense kind of person. There was nothing that she believed that she could not achieve. If she put her heart to it, she'll get it. It may be a struggle for her, but she will get it. And she'll remind you that, yes, you can. Don't come here and complain to me. What have you done? What can you do to make it better? Don't be the one that complains about what you can't do or what you don't have. Be the one that says that, So my mom, I saw my mom. My mom was a fierce mother. She was a very protective mother towards her children. And so I saw that I'm a fierce protector of my kids and my grandchildren, that sort of thing, So I saw that in my mom. So she is my shiro. The other one is Miriam Makeba. I adored Miriam Makeba because she used her voice at a time that she was being challenged by the South African government. As a matter of fact, she was banned from the country, but she used her voice, her singing capacity, ability to tell the story of what's going on in South Africa. She stirred up the pot all over the world and got people to think, to listen. She used her music to tell the story of what was going on. So believe it or not, most people are aware that she was instrumental for bringing attention to the plight of South Africa.
Yes.
And when I was young, I was called Little Makiba because I used to sing. Now, I couldn't speak Xhosa. That's what she spoke. But I listened intently to emulate her. And I would sing these songs, and you would think I was South African. I didn't know what the heck it all meant, but I could sound it off.
Yes.
I could sing it. So they called me Miriam Young Makiba. I had the opportunity to meet her in Lagos during the Festac festival. So it was, oh my God, you think about seeing she wasn't my idol because she could sing. For me, it was the audacity to challenge the powers that be with voice.
Yes.
So I was just mesmerized by that. The other one, and if I come to the United States, the other woman is Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks, who had the audacity to say, I'm right where I am. You can arrest me. And, that's power. That's resolve. That's acknowledgement that, you know what? It is up to me to change things, even if I have to suffer for it. But she did that. She did that. And the other heroes are my two daughters. My two daughters are my heroes. My youngest girl, and if I could just say why she is my hero, when she was in elementary school, she was bullied tremendously. I used to remember going to the school and see her outside playing by herself. As a mother, that tore my heart. Nobody wanted to play with her because we were in the suburbs. We lived in the suburbs of Rochester Hills, where there was so much racism. And my little girl will be, and she doesn't know that I'm watching her, but she's walking around all by herself while everybody else is playing and refusing to play with her. But she will be walking around and talking to herself and pretending that she has a friend and all that sort of thing. And when she was in high school, she wanted to take AP advanced classes. And they made it clear to her that she couldn't do it. They kept failing her. They did everything to create an obstacle for her. And I've got to be honest, at some point I said to her, well, honey, why don't you try something that's easier for you to do? But she says, Mom, you let me handle this. I would rather fail. Watch what I'm saying. And that's inspirational for me. She says, Mom, I'd rather fail trying than stop trying because they said I couldn't. They didn't expect her to go into science or anything. And now she is working on her PhD in microbiology and cell science. That is an inspiration to me. She said, she said, I'll show them I am more than they define me to be. My other inspiration is my daughter, Adora. Adora is talented, super talented. And she has used her talent to build a formidable organization, a business for herself. And she's going to be, quite frankly, it's going to be quite known for her talent, using her talent. So for me, my heroes and sheroes are those who are bold, who will use their talent to go beyond the humanness. And I use this all the time, and enter the unlimited world of the spirit. One more person, yes. Queen Amina of Nigeria. She fought the good fight to protect her from northern Nigeria. She fought the imperialism when it came there. She was aggressive. She did not back down until those people were no more in her community. There's so many people I admire. I could talk about I don't know, Michelle Obama. I admire her. Oprah Winfrey, I admire her. I admire my she's no longer with us, Chief Emezue. She's an African American woman who saw my dad. The first time my dad came to Detroit, he saw my dad and he followed him all over the place and just talked to him. And my dad told me that he didn't understand who is this woman, but she was mesmerized by what this man was saying, and just followed him and said, I want to help. How can I help? The nature of this woman was such that you couldn't come to her and complain about anything. She had cancer and nobody knew she had cancer. because she tells you, instead of complaining about anything, ask yourself what you can do about it. And as a matter of fact, if I called her to complain about anything, she'll tell me, oh, this is Uwa, I'll be right back. And she'll leave she'll put the phone down and walk away. And I'll wait and wait and wait and wait. Never mind that I called to complain about something or the other, but she will never come back. So I'll drop the phone and later on I'll call. She says, and you called me to complain about what? You think you're the one who has the worst challenges in the world? He says, I don't want to hear that. If you call me and tell me what you're going to do about your challenges. Don't call me to just complain. I admired her tremendously. So anyway, the world is full of women to admire, and those are just a few. And I admire you, Akachi. I admire you. Yes, I do. I admire your courage. I admire your curiosity. I admire your desire to embrace all that you are. I admire that. And I admire the fact that you do not let people define you. You've already defined yourself and you're moving on that definition. So I admire you. And I'm not just saying it so you feel good. I really, truly mean it.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, coming from you, like, wow, okay, well, I don't know what to say. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have a few more questions. I won't keep you much longer, but I feel like these are important questions to ask. And so
Yeah.
I want to know, in terms of collaboration with any other organizations or institutions, is OMSI open to do that? And what kind of organizations or institutions would, you would like to reach out to you, perhaps if you don't know about them?
I want any organization who's interested in collaborating in doing workshops, training to train women. There's such a need for it. So I'm looking for that. Any organization that wants to collaborate in helping us to sponsor these children. Now, I mean, our desire is not too much. There's not too much that we're requesting. Just people who have the decency to say, hey, look, we're going to help them help these children, or we're going to help them help these women. So any organization that's already established, or maybe it's just getting started, that wants to collaborate so that we can, our tentacles will be a little bit more expansive so that we can make these things happen. Any organization that's willing to donate money to the organization, help us to fund in some manner of maybe they know how to do funding. Maybe they have the secret to funding. Yes, absolutely. We would like to know and meet them and have a conversation.
Okay. And as far as, the current conditions of women, Black women, African women around the world, what is, I think your number one concern on the continent? And what would you say, maybe even specifically here in the United States? Because there's this idea that, at least in the United States, that Black women don't need help because they're excelling. They're the most educated group. They seem to be doing very well in terms of their upward mobility, in terms of careers. However, they're facing dying when they're delivering their children, highest infant mortality rate, highest mortality rate for pregnant women. They're the next group right now that is currently being mass incarcerated, and they're also the least paid. So even though you have these degreed PhD Black women, they're still earning less in the United States. So, what would you say is the issue?
I think the most important thing is to give African women the opportunity to own their own businesses. You see, you can have all of that. You can work for the Fortune 500 and all that stuff, but you're working for someone else. Even though you may be the director or whatever, they can fire you in a heartbeat. But it's important to give women the opportunity to have their own thing so that they can be in the position to hire their own people, to empower other African people. That's why I don't get too impressed or excited that somebody's the vice president of some company, some Fortune 500 company. If you don't own that company, you're not the one providing employment. Right. They are providing employment through you. Do you understand what I'm saying? You are you're the upper echelon of the organization. Yes, but You don't own it. They can fire you in a heartbeat. So I think that one of the biggest things that we need to do for African women is to put them in the position to own their own things and be able to run their own things, run their own companies, give them the financing. You know, when I look at some of these Black women who have achieved, I always want to know what are you giving? You know, you find a lot of them give to established businesses. Do you understand what I'm saying? You know, you've got all these
Yes.
millions, and then you find another organization that's already made it. No, find the women-owned organizations that are struggling. Find them. There's many of them. So when I see a millionaire, Black woman gave to this big company or gave to this company and give, I said, well, those companies, yeah, they appreciate your money, but you know who appreciates it more is that little lady who has this little store in downtown Atlanta and doesn't have money. Can you give it to her? See, when you uplift other women, that's why I said earlier, you empower a woman, you empower a nation. When we empower as many women as we can, these women have a tendency and the ability to empower other women. But one of the difficulties that women face is that self-esteem issue. Trust in each other, trust in ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
you know, trust in our ability to succeed if we work with each other. There are some times when we make it, we give our jobs and what have you to other people, not our own people. I
Mm-hmm.
know of a woman who owns a beautiful store here in Georgia, but if you go there, there are no Blacks working there, not a
Wow.
single Black person. And then when you ask her, why don't you have any African people working here? They say, oh, you can't trust them. You know, they'll steal from you, then do this and that. Well, I'm not saying that that may not have happened, but everybody else does that too. You know, so you can't just think of Black people and say, oh, they're the ones who steal.
Right.
Perhaps you've run, you know, did you vet them? Sometimes you have to vet, obviously, before you can employ. But we can't just say that, oh, you know, I don't want to work with Black people because Black people steal and all that sort of thing. That's not fair. So, but anyway, make a long story short, we need to trust in ourselves and the fact that if you have a position, consider hiring one of your own, you know, and see, you know, because when you uplift one of us, you know, you may be
Yes.
opening an opportunity for another woman to be uplifted, and it goes on and on and on. But we need to feel it in our hearts that we can do that and actually do it. Mm-hmm.
So two more questions, and I promise this is it. So can men join OMSI, and do men have a role in OMSI?
Yes, as a matter of fact, our international liaison is a man. But let me tell you why that's important. Even though the organization is for women, right? Women don't run the world on their own. There's nowhere you go that you don't see the presence of a man. You understand what I'm saying? So we're not trying to create an environment where men don't count because they do. You
Mhm.
understand what I'm saying? So yes, men can join in whatever capacity we see that we can use them. And we like one of our commissioners, a trainer, is a male, and the international liaison is a male. Every one of them brings something to the table, so we encourage that. It's important to know it's an organization for women. We try to empower women, but I make it. It sounds like it's a joke, but it's really not. If the men are also helped, that means that they're good partners for our women.
Yes.
You don't want the women to be so successful and then there are no men for them to partner with
Right.
as husbands and all that sort of thing. So that there's a need for that as well. So where that's possible, like for uh, um, the company that we're working with is Pop Solutions. I said earlier that I'll mention it is Pop Solutions, right?
Mhm.
Even though that the training with Google is really for women. At least we're focused on women, but we're going to make allowance so that some young men can also take advantage of that. So yes, absolutely. Mhm.
Beautiful. So in closing, what is the future for OMSI? You know, what is the goal? I know you said 10,000 members, but for 2023 overall, you know, would you highlight those couple points of what you want to accomplish as an
Again,
organization?
what I want for OMSI is to be the premier organization in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Africa as a whole, because this philosophy of the organization is service to humanity, first and foremost. So we are going to be raising, training people who think that way, because quite frankly, that's what Africa needs. Africa needs people who care about it, not just for the money that's in Africa, but for the human beings who live there, who need care, who need loving, who should matter to us. So I want OMSI to be the premier organization in Africa when it comes to the care of women and the care of children and the support of men. That's one thing. And then, of course, to build this army of women so that we can access everything that we need to access to be able to help women. We don't want to wish it, we want to make it a reality. So that is my aspiration for OMSI. Do all these fantastic things so we become a premier organization and build this army of women. And we can do it, and we're getting there fast.
So that brings me, I remember you did mention something about the NGOs and UN. Does that play a role as well in this growth?
What? Say that again? They what?
NGOs and the UN. I remember you mentioned this before at some point when we talked. Does
Uh-huh.
that play a role in this future and growth?
The NGOs, being an
Yes.
NGO, yeah. Well, that's the point of the matter is if you're an NGO and you're in the position to make a difference in the lives of women, because that's where the UN is going, that's their aspiration to uplift women out of poverty. That's where we want to be. That's where we want to partner and, help in the direction that they're going, particularly in the African continent. Yeah.
I see. Okay, well, I will let you have your closing remarks. Is there anything else that you would like to say about African Women Mobilization Commission? And also, do let us know, how do we find you, and what it is that you're doing. How do we find you?
Well, to get to me, I'm excited about. I'm a life coach, and I do a lot of counseling, and people to get in touch with me, drosimiri.com. www.drosimiri.com. You can go there and find out all the things that I'm engaged in, what are the things I'm doing. And then I have my Saturday show where I interview people in different fields. It's called the Ntomoto. And the word Ntomoto means words of wisdom. So I enjoy that particular show. If you want to join me on Saturdays, 10 a.m. in the morning, well, we're kind of on hiatus until January, but it's the Ntomoto show, with Dr. O. This is the YouTube. We're also on Facebook, the Ntomoto show on Facebook. And then, of course, the African Women Mobilization Commission, omc.global. There you can find out anything that you want to know about what OMSI is doing. And I encourage people to go there and register, become members, support our work by just being a member, by just signing up to, it's just $25 a month. That's not a big commitment, but we welcome those who have committed thus far, and we encourage new ones to please join us, because the work is huge. We can't do it all. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. It has been an absolute honor and pleasure to interview you and to learn so much. I mean, wow, we're making an impact, and I'm excited about what's to come. And, thank you to the guests who have been watching. As you know, you can not only hear what OMSI is doing, but you can actually see what OMSI is doing, because there's plenty of video that is showing how they're impacting the lives of youth, people at the IDP camps, as well as the trainings, the workshops, the seminars. There's an abundance of things that are taking place in terms of what OMSI is doing to make an impact. And not only can you see it, but you can participate, you can be part of it. And so I implore everyone to, go to the website, go check it out, get involved, and know that you can make a difference, because we are lions, not lambs.
That's
And so
right.
therefore we should move about the world accordingly. And so this has been an exclusive Blafrokan interview with your host, Akachi Azubike. Thank you all and have a good day.
Thank you.